My name is Noah, and I was never just the eldest son, I was the family's servant. While my siblings played, I worked. While they rested, I cleaned. While they chased their dreams, I gave up mine to keep the house running. But the worst part? They never saw anything wrong with it. For years, I told myself this was just my duty until the day they demanded I give up my future for them. That was the moment I realized the truth. I wasn't their son. I was their tool. But this time, I wasn't going to let it slide. Noah sat in his dimly lit apartment, the silence pressing against him like a weight he had never noticed before. The room was small, just a mattress on the floor, a second-hand table, and a single potted plant his coworker had gifted him. It wasn't much, but for the first time in his life, it was his. He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling slowly. Freedom was supposed to feel lighter. Instead, it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, staring into the unknown. But to understand how he got here, to this moment, alone yet free, you'd have to go back 18 years to the day his world changed forever. Noah had been 7 when his parents brought home the twins, Owen and Olivia. He still remembered standing in their brightly painted nursery, staring down at them in wonder as his father's hand rested heavily on his shoulder. "You're a big boy now, Noah," his father said, squeezing gently. "Your brother and sister will need you." At the time, Noah had puffed up his chest with pride, eager to help. He had no idea that those words weren't a request. They were a life sentence. At first, it was small things. Helping set the table while his mother fed the twins. Picking up toys. Fetching diapers when his dad called from across the house. Noah liked feeling useful, liked that his parents smiled and praised him for being such a responsible big brother. But as the years passed, those small tasks multiplied. By the time he was 11, he was watching the twins alone for hours while his parents ran errands. "Keep an eye on them, Noah. We won't be long." When he protested, saying his friends were playing outside, his mother would sigh. "Your siblings need you. You can play later." But later never came. It was around then that Noah began to realize things were different for Owen and Olivia. The clearest sign? His 11th birthday. There was a small cake from the grocery store, a used video game his dad had found on sale, and one friend who had been allowed to come over. They played for an hour before his mom declared it was late, and just like that, the party was over. A month later, the twins turned 4. The backyard was filled with decorations, laughter, and the excited shrieks of 15 preschoolers. There were balloon animals, face painting, a giant custom cake with their names in bright frosting, and piles of gifts. When the party ended, Noah spent 2 hours cleaning up wrapping paper, food scraps, and confetti while his siblings played with their new toys. It wasn't fair. But fairness wasn't something his family cared about. By the time he was 13, Noah was running the entire household. Every morning, he woke the twins, dressed them, made their breakfast, and packed their lunches. Then he rushed to school only to repeat the cycle in the evening, cooking dinner, cleaning the house, and staying up late to finish his own homework. His parents worked long hours, and in their minds, that justified everything. They weren't neglecting him. They were just too busy. At 16, things got worse. One evening, his parents sat him down in the kitchen. Owen and Olivia weren't included in the conversation. They never were when it came to responsibilities. "We need to talk," his father said, his voice serious. His mother nodded. "Money is tight, Noah. We need you to start working after school." The words hit him like a punch to the gut. "What about my schoolwork?" he asked. "And watching Owen and Olivia?" "You'll still do that, of course," his mother said, waving off his concerns. "But you can find a job with flexible hours." The next day, Noah walked into a small cafe 2 blocks from their house and asked for work. The owner, Jerry, hired him on the spot. And just like that, his days stretched impossibly long: school, then work, then home, where his real job waited for him. But the worst part? His paycheck went straight to his parents. At first, he didn't argue. After all, it was for the family. But after weeks of exhaustion, he finally gathered the courage to ask for a little money for himself. His mother had looked at him as if he had suggested burning the house down. "We feed you and put a roof over your head, Noah," she snapped. "This family needs that money." It took another month of relentless work before she finally relented, handing him a crumpled $100 bill each week. But the way she did it, like she was doing him an enormous favor, made him feel sick. Despite working nearly 30 hours a week, nothing changed at home. He was still expected to cook, to clean, to take care of his siblings. Until one night, when something inside him snapped. It had been a brutal shift at the cafe, and all Noah wanted was to eat something and collapse into bed. But when he walked through the front door, he was greeted with glaring faces. "What's going on?" he asked, setting his backpack down. "We're hungry," his mother said sharply. "You didn't make dinner." Noah stared at them, not comprehending. I was at school and then work all day, he said slowly, his stomach twisting. That's no excuse, his father chimed in. You know dinner is your responsibility. And just like that, something in him fractured. For the first time in his life, Noah raised his voice. Are you serious? He snapped. I just worked a 6-hour shift after spending the entire day at school. You're adults. The twins are 9. None of you could figure out how to make a sandwich. The silence that followed was almost satisfying. Then his mother's face hardened. Don't you dare speak to us like that. She turned to his father. Order pizza. Noah watched as his dad picked up the phone and ordered 2 large pizzas. For them. Not for him. Not for the person who had spent years keeping this house together. He made himself a cup of tea, cleaned their dishes after they ate, and went to bed with his stomach growling. His high school graduation should have been a milestone. But while his classmates had parents throwing them parties and buying them gifts, Noah had spent the day buying his own graduation outfit with the tiny bit of money he had managed to save. His parents showed up just before the ceremony, clapped politely when his name was called, and the moment it was over, his mother checked her watch. We need to go, she said. Owen has a soccer game in an hour. And just like that, they left. That night, while his classmates celebrated, Noah went to work. Jerry, the cafe owner, stared when he walked in. Isn't today your graduation? He asked. Noah just shrugged. I need the money. Jerry didn't say anything at first, but later that night as they cleaned up he spoke. You're a good worker, Noah. One of the best I've had. He wiped his hands on a towel. But you can't build a future in a cafe. Noah frowned. What do you mean? Jerry leaned against the counter. My cousin owns a restaurant downtown. A real place, not a diner like this. He's always looking for good staff. I could put in a word for you. The pay was better. The opportunity was real. 2 weeks later, Noah took the job. He thought maybe, just maybe, his life was finally about to change. He had no idea just how right he was. Before we continue, I want to connect with you, my incredible viewers. Where are you watching from? Drop the flag of your country in the comments below. I love seeing how far our stories travel. Now, let's get back to it. Noah's new job at the restaurant was exhausting, but for the first time in his life, he felt like he was building something for himself. The kitchen was a battlefield. The chefs moved with precision, and every night, he watched, learned, and memorized. Marco, the head chef, noticed his curiosity. You ever thought about cooking professionally? Marco asked one night. Noah hesitated. I've never really had the time to think about my future. Marco smirked. Maybe it's time you did. But at home, nothing changed. Despite working 10-hour shifts, Noah was still expected to cook, clean, and take care of his siblings. Owen and Olivia, now 15, had never lifted a finger. One night, after an exhausting double shift, Noah walked into the house and found a disaster. Dishes piled high, laundry on the floor, his siblings playing video games. Could you guys at least help clean up? He asked, his patience thinning. Owen didn't even look away from the screen. That's your job. That night, Noah brought it up with his parents, hoping, just once, they'd take his side. They're too young to worry about housework, his mother said, flipping through a magazine. Noah scoffed. I was doing chores when I was 7. His father frowned. That was different. You were more mature. The words hit him like a slap. 3 more years passed in the same relentless cycle. Work, home, exhaustion, repeat. At 23, Noah had spent nearly a decade keeping this family afloat. Then came Owen and Olivia's 16th birthday. The house was filled with guests, a catered buffet, and a massive custom cake. Noah, expecting to be ignored, volunteered to work late. When he got home, the party was over, but the mess was everywhere. He slipped into the kitchen, starving, and grabbed a plate of leftover pizza. Just as he was about to take a bite, his mother walked in. Oh, good, you're home, she said, pulling the plate away. The living room is a mess. Start cleaning. Noah blinked. Mom, I haven't eaten all day. She sighed. The guests are still here. You can eat later. A slow, cold anger crept up his spine. No, he said, his voice steady. I'm eating first. Before she could argue, His father walked in, followed by Owen and Olivia, grinning and holding brand new MacBooks. Noah's stomach twisted. They got laptops? He asked. And new iPhones, Olivia added, showing off the screen. Isn't it great? He stared at them, then at his parents. When do they start working? The room fell silent. His mother exhaled like he was a child throwing a tantrum. Noah, they have bright futures. They need to focus on school. And I didn't? That was it. The final straw. That night, Noah lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Nothing would change unless he changed it. By morning, his decision was made. While the house was empty, he packed everything he owned into 2 suitcases. It didn't take long. His hands shook as he called James. Remember when you said I should leave? Noah's voice was tight. I'm doing it. Right now. There was a pause, then James's firm reply. Come to my place. Stay as long as you need. Noah took one last look at the house where he had given everything. And then he walked out. No note. No goodbye. Just silence. As the taxi pulled away, he expected regret, guilt, doubt. But all he felt was relief. Noah woke up to a silence he had never known before. No shouting, no demands, no endless list of chores. For the first time, he was free. But freedom felt strange. James had left a note on the kitchen counter. Eat something. You don't owe anyone an explanation. Take your time. Noah stared at it, then grabbed a bowl of cereal, watching the city outside move forward, just like he finally was. By noon, his phone exploded with calls and messages. His mother, his father, Owen, Olivia. He ignored them, but when it rang again, he answered. Where the hell are you? His mother shrieked. The house is a mess. There's no food. His father's voice cut in, sharp and angry. You better get home. Now. Noah exhaled. They weren't worried. They weren't sad. They were just angry they had lost their free labor. I'm not coming back, he said, steady. Silence. Then a cold laugh. Don't be ridiculous, his mother scoffed. You have responsibilities. I don't, Noah said simply. Figure it out yourselves. And with that, he turned off his phone. For the first time in his life, he could finally breathe. Over the next few weeks, Noah settled into his new life. He worked, saved money, and for once, his paycheck belonged to him. At the restaurant, Marco took notice of his potential. One evening, the chef handed him a plate. Taste this. Tell me what's missing. Noah hesitated, then said more acidity. A splash of lemon or white wine. Marco smirked. Not bad. A few weeks later, he called Noah into his office. I want to pay for you to take cooking courses, he said. You're wasting potential out there waiting tables. Noah could barely process it. No one had ever invested in him before. But before he could accept, the past came calling. His mother's voice was oddly soft. Your father and I have been talking. We may have put too much on you. Let's move past this, okay? Come home. The manipulation was so obvious that he almost laughed. I have an offer to take cooking courses, he tested. Marco wants to train me. Silence. Then her tone hardened. And who's going to cook? Clean? Take care of Owen and Olivia. There it was. Not that's amazing, Noah. Not I'm proud of you. Just more expectations. I'm not coming back, Noah said, calm but firm. You're being dramatic. No, Noah exhaled. I'm just finally choosing myself. And this time he meant it. Weeks passed, and for the first time in his life, Noah felt at peace. No more waking up to demands, no more expectations crushing him under their weight. He worked, saved, and threw himself into his cooking courses, slowly shaping a future that belonged to him. Then one evening, as he left the restaurant after a long shift, they were waiting. His parents. Noah slowed his steps, heart hammering in his chest. He had expected another phone call, maybe a guilt-ridden message, but not this. His father stepped forward, voice tight. We need to talk. Noah folded his arms. About what? His mother's expression softened as if she had rehearsed it. We miss you, Noah. The words sounded so wrong coming from her. Noah raised an eyebrow. You miss me? Or do you miss the free labor? His mother sighed dramatically. We know we may have asked a lot from you. A lot. Noah cut in. I raised Owen and Olivia. I worked. I cleaned. I gave you every dollar I earned. His voice sharpened. And you never once said thank you. His father bristled. You're making this sound worse than it was. Noah let out a short, humorless laugh. Worse than it was? He shook his head. You didn't even come to my graduation dinner because Owen had a soccer game. His mother's jaw tightened. We were doing what was best for the family. Noah met her gaze, his voice cold. No. You were doing what was best for them. Silence stretched between them. His father exhaled sharply. Enough of this. It's time to come home. Noah scoffed. I have a home. His mother's tone turned pleading. Noah, we need you. There it was. The real reason they were here. Not love. Not regret. Need. Noah's stomach twisted, but there was no anger left. Just clarity. You don't need me, he said. You need what I did for you. His mother's face fell, and for the first time, Noah thought she might actually be afraid. You're making a mistake, his father warned. No, Noah said, stepping back. I finally got something right. He turned and walked away, his parents' voices calling after him, but he didn't stop. For the first time, he wasn't looking back. A year passed. Noah stood in the bustling kitchen of a high-end restaurant, flames flaring as he expertly seared a steak. He wasn't just a waiter anymore. He wasn't invisible. He was an assistant chef now, building a career he never thought possible. For the first time, he was living for himself. Then, one afternoon, as he took a rare break, his phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. Against his better judgment, he answered. Noah, his mother's voice came through, clipped and businesslike. We need to talk. He almost hung up, but curiosity or closure made him stay on the line. She didn't waste time. Owen and Olivia are starting college next fall, she said. We need your help paying for their tuition. Noah's breath caught, then he let out a quiet laugh. The audacity. You're joking, right? He said, leaning against the counter. His mother's tone turned sharp. This isn't funny, Noah. Family helps family. Family. That word tasted bitter on his tongue. He exhaled slowly. Like how you helped me with college? He asked, voice calm. Oh, wait. You didn't. That was different, she snapped. The twins have real potential. Noah's fingers tightened around the phone. There it was. The final confirmation. They had never seen him as anything more than a tool. He had wasted years waiting for them to love him the way they loved his siblings. But that moment was over. I'm not paying for their college, he said, his voice steady. I'm not giving you another cent ever. Silence. Then the rage he expected. You selfish, ungrateful, eh? No, Noah interrupted, his voice cutting through hers like a knife. I gave you everything. I worked, I sacrificed, I paid for a life I was never allowed to live. And you never cared. His mother sputtered, searching for control. We're your family. No, Noah said, voice final. You were never my family. I was just your worker. And with that he hung up. He blocked the number. Then changed his own for good measure. 2 months later, Noah moved into his own apartment. Small, but his. As he sat on his second-hand couch, looking around at a life he had built with his own hands, a realization settled over him. He didn't just escape. He reclaimed his life. This story isn't just about leaving a toxic family, it's about self-worth. It's about realizing that love should never be conditional, that family isn't defined by blood but by the way people treat you. Noah spent years giving everything to people who only saw him as a tool, and when he finally chose himself, he found something far more valuable than their approval, his freedom. How many of you have ever felt like Noah? Like you were expected to give and give, while others took without gratitude? This story is for those who have been made to feel like they were only valuable when they were useful. You are more than what you can do for others. You deserve respect, happiness, and a life that belongs to you. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a 2 in the comments if you liked this story, and a 7 if it wasn't your thing. Let's get a conversation going. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to stand up for yourself like Noah did? And hey, if you want more stories like this, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Mr.HeartVibes. Your support helps keep these stories coming. See you in the next one.